Isn't it nice when you get to check off a bucket list item as an explorer, as a traveler, or in this case, a kayaker? With my friend Jan, a few days ago, we did just that. I had been aiming for this for quite a while, heading to Landsort, at the absolute southernmost tip of the Stockholm archipelago. If you haven't visited and you get a chance to do so, this is highly recommended. There's an enormous amount of things to see and it's a fantastic location. At the end of the previous video I posted from this, I was exiting this, what I called a cave, or technically a mini ravine, or whatever you want to call it. And we're about to head southwards to the actual southernmost tip of Öja, the island here, where you have the lighthouse called Landsort. Landsort is also the community there. There's all a bit of confusion in terms of what's called what. Sometimes you call the island Öja Landsort, or interchangeably, or whatever. But we frankly couldn't care too much right now because we had been paddling for some hours and we were hungry. It was already a bit late for lunch, so now I prioritized the stop for some food and water and complaining about the view and, sending messages on social media about how awful life is in the archipelago. Shortly after, this is where the lighthouse, Landsort, appears around the corner there. We had actually seen it from the northern side of the island, but this is where we now are at Landsort, and we stopped here, decided to take the most complicated entry point just under the bunker here. You could paddle around the corner and climb up some other rocks, and that would probably be easier, but this was a nice place to store our kayaks and go exploring. As you can see, and as you will see, because this video will now take us across the southern part of the island on land here, there are a lot of military fortifications on this island, because this was part of Havsbandslinjen in Swedish, the sea band line, essentially a defense line of fortifications and major artillery guns, the largest of which can fire up to about 30 kilometers, I think, defending the Stockholm coastline and the entrances to Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. So you had these artillery guns covering this section of the sea, and command center bunkers and artillery coordination centers and such. This was our first time here, and as I said, there is really a lot to see. You need to be careful so you don't trip and break a leg here. There are a lot of rocks and a lot of things to climb over, but it's definitely a historic, very interesting location. These fortifications are visible in much of the southern archipelago and the northern as well, but the island here of Öja and the location of Landsort actually has the guns left to be shown to the public, so there's more visible here than you would find in other locations, because these of course have been decommissioned, and now this is a museum area. You can see from the cannons there that we joked about were a bit more suitable for bringing on our kayaks for pirate purposes, that this has been around for a while, this lighthouse. It is, as I mentioned in the previous video, Sweden's oldest lighthouse. Is built in 1689, so there's a lot of history here on this island, and in addition to that you have these fantastic views of the Baltic Sea and panorama views from this spot, the Landsort, are quite impressive. If you're here at the right time, in summer especially, you can book a guided tour or show up at the right times and actually go out in the lighthouse as well and get an even better view supposedly. But looking down over the sea and the island, even from here, is quite impressive. And again, it's really, really worth a visit. If you're in Stockholm and you don't want to go kayaking here, it's about 7.5 kilometers from Ankarudden, where we started. You can also take the ferry from Ankarudden, and you could go to Nynäshamn and take a bus if you don't have a car, and go to Ankarudden and take the ferry from there as well. So this is definitely a notable spot, ever watchful to the east, and 260 kilometers or so to the east of here is Estonia. So there's basically just open water to the east. You have a few rocks here and there and tiny islands, but most of the Stockholm archipelago starts a bit further to the northeast. 5,000 islands or so. And here you can see us being punished for our foolishness, trying to find our way back and maybe find a less hazardous way than we came here, which we kind of were semi-successful in actually accomplishing. But again, the rocks and the nature and the views of the archipelago here are always worth a visit. And this island is a great example of what I always say. Every paddling trip brings something new. You get to see something you haven't seen before, whether it's even in the same place, it will have maybe different weather conditions, or you see an animal or a bird or meet people, or there's always something new to experience. There's always some sort of variation. But when you go to a place like this, well, there's a lot to see. And again, Landsort, highly recommended if you want a special excursion in Stockholm. So now we're heading out after our exploration on land, and we're about to head to the island, which is just southeast of here, Stockholm.
So this is the southernmost tip in a moment here of the southernmost large island in the Stockholm archipelago, and just southeast of there, where we are pointed here, is Stockholm, a tiny island. We'll be checking that out. So this is nice. I've actually had this as a target for quite a while to visit here and explore. And today the weather is really nice. There's a little bit of wind, 4 to 5 meters per second, not a lot. So the sea is fairly calm and it's a warm day. So really good conditions for this, because obviously if it's a bit crazier with the weather, the water here in these parts can also get quite crazy. In fact, Tore, where we came from, where we started today, some parts of Tore are very famous for huge surf areas for kayaking. Oh, sorry guys, scared it goes off.
By the way, if you've watched this far, and thank you for that, I imagine you, like me or us paddling here, really enjoy exploration and seeing new places and checking out, well, you know, places you haven't been before. But it would be interesting to hear about your driving force, what drives you to go paddling or exploring the outdoors. What is most rewarding for you, and what makes for a great adventure?
This is the most southern tip of the Stockholm archipelago. This is where it ends. And we start paddling back.
Is the moment where we're passing the southernmost point, actually.
Well, so this is really nice. We've reached our goal for this paddle, and from here on out we'll be heading back on the west side of the
you can see, having now passed the southernmost spot, I can see the sea everywhere, basically. See the sea. So this is nice.
Alright, so a technical note here in case anyone visits and sets out to, you know, reach the southernmost point. I want to be technically correct as well, so I don't share any misinformation. So basically we're south of Stockholm, which is south of Öja, and this is thought of essentially as the southernmost tip of the archipelago of Stockholm because it ends here. But technically, a bit to the west, some kilometers to the west, there is an island called Storberget of similar size as Stockholm, and technically it's a little bit further south than Stockholm. On the other hand, when we were south of Stockholm, we were actually parallel with that island. So I think for our purposes, this was actually good enough. This is in fact where the archipelago ends on the south side. It should also be noted that there are some, I don't know if you would even call them islands or more rocks, islets maybe, called Kastboden, Sebogrund, Inre Karvasen. I think those are the ones that are a little bit further than south than this. So if you're really a super completionist, you would have to define what size of islands or islets you're looking for. Decide whether those should be part of your calculation. For our purposes, this is where the southern archipelago ends, and this is what we were aiming for. So we were really happy about that, and of course from here we continued back north towards Ankerudden and Tora, where we started, and we would be paddling on the west side of Öja, but I'll show that in another video. Thank you very much for watching.